What's going on, paranormal world? One thing I've noticed over the past couple of years, especially on YouTube and other media platforms, is that no one has challenged Ed and Lorraine Warren about their paranormal cases. You had some people who touched on it, but today I'm unleashing. And let me say this, I'm definitely not trying to disrespect or talk down about the Warrens. It's just that I like to call stuff out. I'm sorry, I just hate biting my tongue. So I just give it to you real. And again, I mean no disrespect to the Warren family. But today, I'm going to share my thoughts about arguably the most famous haunted paranormal case in America. And that is the case of the Annabelle doll. In today's time, the porcelain Annabelle doll is viewed as one of the most iconic faces in the horror Hollywood industry. But the real Annabelle doll is just a Raggedy Ann doll, which to me looks creepier than the Hollywood doll. And before I proceed, leave a like down below if you think the Annabelle doll is not haunted as the Warrens say. But to continue, the history of the Annabelle doll stems back to a thrift shop back in 1970. The doll was eventually purchased by this mother, and this mother gave this doll to her daughter. The girl who received the doll, her name was Donna, and she had a roommate. But strange things began to happen once the doll moved in with them, such as the doll physically moving positions and moving to different rooms. And all of this took place when nobody was at home. The women began to get increasingly concerned, especially with them being uneased at all the paranormal occurrences that happened at this apartment. So with all that going on, they went exploring for help, which they came in contact with the psychic medium, and the psychic medium gave them important information regarding the property and a spirit that hasn't crossed over yet. The psychic medium claimed that a little girl, Annabelle Higgins, passed away on the property and now inhabited into the doll. And with these two roommates being completely naive to the situation, they nurtured the doll like a real person, which in my opinion is very stupid and negligent to themselves and people around them, especially one of their friends who claimed that Annabelle physically attacked him while he was sleeping. And I think that happened before the psychic medium and they did that seance. But once Ed and Lorraine Warren got whiff to this paranormal experience at this apartment, the Warrens came to the conclusion that the women were being manipulated by this evil entity, posing as this innocent child spirit. The Warrens also claimed that the doll was just a decoy, because the real mission was for the evil entity to possess human flesh. After consulting with them and everything passing over, Ed and Lorraine Warren stole the doll. I mean, they took the doll. But Ed took a back road home for safety reasons, and he claimed that the doll became violent, almost turning over his car several times. And basically, that's a synopsis of the backstory about this Annabelle doll. As far as the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine, they had sole ownership of the Annabelle doll and placed it in their occult museum. Apparently, under their supervision, they can control the evil. The current owner of the Annabelle doll, Tony Sparrow, their son-in-law, he has been the caretaker for a couple of years. He even had a custom wooden glass box built for the protection and sprinkled holy water all over Annabelle. But you have to wonder, is the Annabelle doll really legit as Ed and Lorraine Warren claim? I think the overreactions came from this myth about this dude who was taunting the Annabelle doll, and shortly after him taunting the doll, him and his girlfriend was kicked out of the museum, and he was in a motorcycle accident, which resulted in him passing away and his girlfriend being in the hospital for at least 3 months. Let me just say this about that situation. I think the whole story is fake. For one, there are no articles or news clips for the surrounding area of a motorcycle accident with someone passing away or even being hospitalized due to a motorcycle accident, especially for the date that this all occurred. Plus, no death or obituaries in the newspaper match the ages of what the Warrens were describing. So all of you that support their claims, how can you defend that? And anyway, if this was true, why would the Warrens promote this as if the accident was specifically caused by him taunting the Annabelle doll? Car accidents happen like every 7 seconds. So why would the Warrens disrespect the young boy's family by making claims that a doll killed him? Isn't that a little disturbing and distasteful? And there's no proof that all of this even occurred. Also, where were the other people who witnessed this guy get kicked out the museum? Nobody came forward. Nobody has said nothing. Nobody did an interview. I mean, somebody will be on YouTube by now explaining what happened. But nobody has came forward saying that they witnessed this. I find that very strange. But moving forward, what about Ed Warren technically stealing the doll from these individuals? Well, he technically didn't steal it, but he was like, hey, I'm going to take this doll and get it out y'all hair to a safer place. He knew what he was doing. I mean, he's a marketing genius. And later on in the future, wouldn't you know, Annabelle, the Raggedy Ann doll, is the best marketing tool in the world. I mean, just look what happened on Twitter the other day when they said Annabelle escaped. I mean, you almost had 1 million tweets about it. But yeah, man, Ed Warren was ahead of his time. But Ed said in his own words, the entity doesn't want to be attached to an item, but to a person. So why didn't he just destroy the Raggedy Ann doll? Which brings me to my next point, because I'm pretty sure someone is going to say it's safer to have them latched onto an object. Well, if all is what they say is true about this paranormal stuff, then why didn't Ed and Lorraine Warren actually conduct scientific experiments to find their research? I mean, isn't that what the paranormal is all about? Finding physical evidence and proof? For instance, if I was the owner of the Annabelle doll, I would have someone take it out the case, physically beat the doll, taunt the doll, and destroy it. Then I would wait and see if a response occurred to the individual who destroyed the doll. And then I would document any unusual events that happened after that. If nothing happens over a period of time like 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, then it's safe to say that the doll is actually fake. Because back when Annabelle was actually roaming free back in 1970, the doll acted and reacted in current time. Like the dude that was attacked by the doll when he was sleeping, and the other dude who supposedly died on the motorcycle. All of those acts happened in a short period of time after taunting the Annabelle doll. So the notion of the evil entity inside the Annabelle doll attacking whenever it wants, to whether it's a short period of time, to whether it's a long period of time, you can debunk that. But it's supposedly proven that everything happens in a short period of time with this Annabelle doll. Even back in 2017, when paranormal investigator Zach Bagans of the Ghost Adventures crew touched the Annabelle doll, and a day later, his car was almost struck by lightning. And speaking of Zach Bagans and the Annabelle doll, the doll was on Ghost Adventures in 2017. So the Annabelle doll had to travel all the way to Las Vegas because that's where Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum was, and they were shooting the Halloween special back in 2017. So Annabelle traveled on an airplane full of random individuals, which brings me to my next point. I brought up this point in one of my videos about Tony Spera, so if you haven't checked that out, please go check it out. It's very informative. But how in the world did Annabelle go through TSA and security at these airports? I mean, think about it. 1 round trip, 2 airports. That's 4 times that Annabelle had to go through TSA. Tony Spera claims that Annabelle can only be touched with big welding mittens. But I'm pretty sure and 100% positive that the security guards didn't use mittens to feel all over Annabelle. I don't know, man. I just think a lot of this stuff is just blown out of proportion. Tony says everyone who touches the Annabelle doll has been affected drastically. Well, in this picture on the screen, Miss Lorraine Warren is holding the Annabelle doll with a smirk on her face. So I don't know about that. Overall, the Warrens have no evidence about this Annabelle doll. They say they have proof, but I never really seen it. In my personal opinion, it was just a marketing strategy. And you could say that the Annabelle doll is the logo of the Warrens, the main attraction to lure people into the museum. But unfortunately, the museum is now closed due to zoning issues. And Ed Warren always attacked atheists. And I'm not an atheist, by the way. But anyone who stepped up and challenged Ed and Lorraine Warren, Ed always came out and said that they were atheists because they don't believe in God or whatever. Ed Warren completely ignored the fact that he has no proof or evidence to dispute his claims most of the time. And that's like me saying, hey, I have a superpower. I can fly. I fly all the time. And someone says, well, fly right now. I want to see you fly. And I'll be like, nah, I don't feel like it. You get what I'm saying? Show us the evidence, Ed Warren. I mean, you never really did. And let's not forget the Twilight Zone episode back in the day. I think it came out in the early 1960s, and this was years before the Annabelle doll existed. But it still was a hot commodity and a hot episode that people were talking about. And that Twilight episode was Tina the Talking Doll, and it was a popular episode like I mentioned. And get this, the mother who bought the doll in the episode, her name was Annabelle. And the plot of the episode was this evil doll coming to life and causing havoc within that family, specifically the husband. What's the chances of the Warrens case involving a doll with the name Annabelle, and this old Twilight episode involving a haunted doll and some woman being named Annabelle? I don't think that's a coincidence by any chance. And why haven't Tony Sparrow been attacked? He technically lives with the Annabelle doll. I guess Annabelle is okay with being suppressed and being a slave. If evil entities are as strong as what the Warrens say, then no glass box will be able to hold that evil energy. Same thing with the holy water. If priests can be harmed, can't the regular individual like Tony Sparrow be affected? I don't know. In conclusion, don't trust what the Warrens have manipulated you to think. Ed Warren was the same man that made himself a self-demonologist. Just imagine if I came up with some type of simple experiment, like putting peanut butter and jelly together, and I call myself a scientist. That's how I view this as. So yeah, guys, I got a lot off my chest. Hopefully I wasn't being too disrespectful, but that's not my intent. I just like to share my real and my unfiltered thoughts. But I really want to hear your thoughts about this. Do you believe in the Annabelle doll? Do you believe it's legit evil? Or do you believe it's fake? If you love the paranormal, if you love paranormal content and discussions like this, feel free to subscribe, especially if you love the paranormal. And also, if you love horror movies, I have video discussions about that too. And if you do subscribe to my channel, hit that notification button so you can see every time I upload, so you don't miss a video. As always, be safe, peace.